So Tears of the Kingdom has been out for a little over a month now, and ever since it was first announced at E3 2019, people have been debating whether the music would be more like a traditional Zelda game, or if Nintendo would stick with the Breath of the Wild open-air vibe. After putting in way too many hours over the past month, let's take a look at the music and how it compares to the game that changed the Zelda formula forever, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Between me and my 4 brothers, we have probably put in tens of thousands of hours into the Legend of Zelda franchise. I've played pretty much every game, besides the cursed CDI games.
This'll make a great omelet. Here! Thanks.
And when I first heard the music in Breath of the Wild on my Wii U, and yes, I did play it on the Wii U, I actually loved it. It wasn't until I started poking around the internet that I realized there was a large portion of the fanbase that hated Breath of the Wild's music. To me, the music fit perfectly into the theme of the game. You're in a decayed world that basically lost its fight with Calamity Ganon, and because you and Zelda have been gone for 100 years, there's no hope left in the world. It's empty. It's sad. There's no happy mask salesman to cheer up the kids, or happy Castletown music. Breath of the Wild's music was great for what it was trying to convey, and today we're going to be comparing Breath of the Wild's music to Tears of the Kingdom, with the internet's favorite thing, a tier list. But this isn't just any normal tier list with S through F tiers, this just has 2 tiers, to see which game has better music. Before I dive in, I do want to say that there will be some spoilers. I'll be talking about the final battle of each game, as well as specifics regarding Divine Beasts and Tears of the Kingdom's equivalent. So if you haven't beaten the game yet and want to be surprised, I'd recommend watching the first category and then putting this video in your watch later playlist and coming back to it. Also, before you start ranting in the comments that you don't agree with me or saying things like,
"Oh brother, this guy stinks!"
This is my personal list. Both games honestly have amazing music. Feel free to leave your comments down below and tell me what you think. So to get started, I'm going to go over the pre-release stuff. So this is going to be things like story trailer, opening title themes, things like that. When it comes to the story trailer music, I honestly have amazing memories of listening to the Breath of the Wild soundtrack on the way to college. Now, I know that sounds kind of weird, but I was just really hyped for the game, super excited for it to come out. But there's absolutely something special about that saxophone. So this goes to Tears of the Kingdom. Now let's analyze the opening title themes. Breath of the Wild honestly is good, and it introduces you to the world of soft music that Breath of the Wild has, but I prefer Tears of the Kingdom. You actually get to hear this multiple times throughout the game, and it adds on a few notes each time that you hear it. It's really, really cool. Now, let's turn our attention to the main theme of the game. When looking at both the Tears of the Kingdom theme and the Breath of the Wild theme, this theme from Breath of the Wild reinvented the modern Zelda formula, and it's something special to me. Tears of the Kingdom was great too, but Breath of the Wild honestly just stands out. Now let's take a look at the actual game. So, when it comes to Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild, they both have opening tutorial areas. In Tears of the Kingdom, you have the Great Sky Islands, and it actually has something special where it's already starting to sound kind of nostalgic. And then in Breath of the Wild, you have the Great Plateau. I think that both of them have really good music, but this one I'm going to give actually to Breath of the Wild. To me, there's something special about the little tiny bit of like piano and flute instrument. I don't even know what it is, but there's something special about it, and I really, really love that. Now we're going to move on to the next section, which has kind of the majority of music that I'm going to go over, which is location themes and enemies. So the first one that I'm going to go over is the SHEIKAH Tower versus the SKYVIEW Tower. And this is the music that plays when you approach one of these towers, or for Breath of the Wild, it's when you're standing at the top of one of the towers. I really like the SKYVIEW Tower theme, but I think that it's better suited for areas where you have a lot of people. Like at Lookout Landing, it's perfect for that area. It seems like there's a lot of hustle and bustle going on with the song, but for places where it's remote and there's no one around you, to me it almost seems out of place. I wish they would have had like a second theme for places like that. So I'm going to give this one actually to Breath of the Wild. Every time that you teleport to a tower, you actually feel safe for once in this game because everything's trying to kill you. So moving on, I'm going to go to the SHEIKAH Tower activated. versus the tower launch. I'm actually going to give this one to Tears of the Kingdom. As I mentioned in the story trailer, the saxophone is absolutely amazing, and you get a little bit of saxophone in this. So next, we're going to take a dive into the shrine themes. It's kind of like a polarizing topic. I mean, there's 142, 148 shrines in both games or something like that. Like, there's a lot of shrines, and you're going to hear this theme a lot. I think when people first heard the Breath of the Wild one, people didn't really like it. I know one of my brothers, he doesn't really appreciate this song. I really like Tears of the Kingdoms, but to me, I actually really enjoy the Breath of the Wild shrine theme a little bit more. I have fallen asleep actually a lot to that one. I don't know if it's the notes and the way that it lines up. I haven't fallen asleep in Tears of the Kingdom in any of the shrines, but I really like this theme. So moving on is where we're gonna get a little scary. In each one of these games, there is a terrifying overworld enemy. One in particular that stands out. In Breath of the Wild, you have the Guardians, and then in Tears of the Kingdom, you have the Gloom Hands, or the Gloom Spawn, I guess is what they're actually called. To me, the Gloom Hands are actually scary, or they're scarier than Guardians are. But I'm actually going to give the theme to Breath of the Wild. The music that plays when you see a Guardian, or I guess when a Guardian sees you, still kind of scares me to this day.
Do you hear me? I'm not afraid anymore.
So I actually am going to give that to Breath of the Wild, but the design of the Gloom Hands and Puppet Ganon that spawns after you kill them, absolutely terrifying, especially the first time that it happens. Up next is the Rito Village theme. As a Wind Waker enjoyer, I love the Dragon Roost Island theme in Tears of the Kingdom. There's a little bit of Dragon Roost Island in there, and when I first heard it, I had kind of stopped moving and was just blown away at how beautiful it was. But having said that, the Rito Village theme in Breath of the Wild is beautiful. There's so much to this, and I could honestly listen to this all day long. Now we're going to get into the Divine Beasts versus the equivalent in Tears of the Kingdom, which hopefully at this point you are not watching if you haven't played the game and you want to be surprised. But there is a temple basically for every Divine Beast. And so I'm going to actually start with the Water Temple versus RUTA. And this one is really interesting because I actually had given it to Tears of the Kingdom at first listen when I was kind of going through and comparing the songs and things like that. But when I started looking at the comments for RUTA's theme, I saw that I was missing so much to what makes this song good. And I'm going to give it to Breath of the Wild for this because what the composer did, what they added to this song is the SOS sound that plays, like the Morse code sound. And I'll play that for you right now. And they actually added that to every single one of the Divine Beasts. So if you listen really close, you can hear SOS in all of these. But what's so cool about RUTA is that because it's Mipha's Divine Beast, it fits her personality perfectly. It starts out really hopeful because she's glad that Link is there to save her, but then she starts getting more and more worried as she knows what Link is going to have to go against. So it increasingly gets sadder and sadder and scarier as Mipha gets more and more scared for Link. And it's really sad too because at the very end the SOS actually fades out and Ganon's organ that we usually hear when talking about Ganondorf and Ganon, that actually takes over the SOS. So up next we're going to go through the Fire Temple versus Vah Rudania, which is the Goron's stuff, and I'm going to give that to Tears of the Kingdom. I really like the Vah Rudania theme. It really makes it seem like you're in a volcano. But the Fire Temple, it gave me Ocarina of Time Fire Temple vibes with the chanting and the echoes and things like that. I love how the trumpet just kind of sneaks in every once in a while. It's a perfect theme for a really, really creepy temple that's in the depths. Up next is the Lightning Temple versus Va Naboris, which is the Gerudo Temple and Divine Beast. This one's really sad and somber because Urbosa was basically like the surrogate mother for Zelda, and during this theme there's random clashes and really loud bursts of piano, and that's basically Urbosa getting electrocuted. However, I'm going to give this one to Tears of the Kingdom as well because it does a great job at implementing the Gerudo themes of being in the desert, I think a lot better than even the Va Naboris theme does. So moving on is the final Divine Beast, and one of the temples is the Wind Temple versus Va MEDOH, which is the RITO's temple and Divine Beast. So on first lesson, I really like the Va MEDOH theme, especially halfway through. It kind of does this really cool string instrument rendition. And they also added this extra little sad bit where Va MEDOH's SOS doesn't start until like 15 seconds into the song. And it kind of signifies how stubborn Revali is. He thought he knew that he wouldn't need help saving the Divine Beast, but ultimately he did. And so then he starts to reach out and call for help. But I'm going to give this one also to Tears of the Kingdom because this was my first temple that I did when I played through it. And as you're climbing up to get into the Wind Temple, it's like this culminating soundtrack, and it builds and it builds and it builds. And it builds straight into an amazing boss battle at the end. They even plug in some Va MEDOH as well and Revali theme. Amazing job by the composers here. It's also in an amazing location on a huge ship, floating way above everything else in Hyrule. Now the next category is going to be the sound effects and some shorter themes, kind of little things that you hear throughout the game. And the first one is Hestu's theme. I'm just going to be completely honest, I hate Hestu. I didn't like him in Breath of the Wild, I still don't like him in Tears of the Kingdom, and I really didn't like him in Age of Calamity.
I just hate him, I hate him, I hate him.
But I'm going to give this one to Tears of the Kingdom. I like the Hestu theme a little bit more. I'm not just spamming X every time I have to give him my Korok seeds. Up next is the Shrine Radar. This was agonizing to listen to in Breath of the Wild, and sometimes I even ended up turning it off because I knew where the shrine was, but I just couldn't get to it. Where in Tears of the Kingdom, they lowered this quite a bit, and it's not as annoying to listen to. So it goes to Tears of the Kingdom. Now the next one is going to be the Shrine Reward, so what you get from completing each shrine. In Breath of the Wild, there is the SHEIKAH orbs that you get, and then in Tears of the Kingdom, you get the Light of Blessing. And I'm going to give this one to Tears of the Kingdom. I really love the effects in both of these. I love how when you're given the reward, you see this bright flash of blue in Breath of the Wild and green in Tears of the Kingdom. And it's really satisfying to watch every single time. So I usually find myself just watching that, then pressing X. But I really love Tears of the Kingdom, and it makes it sound so mystical. A little bit more than Breath of the Wild. So that goes to Tears of the Kingdom. Now I'm going to go over the end game. If you haven't beaten this game, I really want you to experience it for yourself. But if you just want to listen to music, go ahead and just kind of look away. But I'm going to start with the final area. So in Tears of the Kingdom, this is the area underneath Hyrule. So Hyrule gets lifted up, and this is everything underneath it. And then in Breath of the Wild, this is going to be Hyrule Castle. And I've got to give this one to Hyrule Castle in Breath of the Wild. The Hyrule Castle theme from Breath of the Wild is just so good that they actually just decided to keep it for Tears of the Kingdom. And that shows how classic it is. Don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed Tears of the Kingdom's ominous ambiance as you're delving deeper and deeper into the castle depth, and the music just gets more and more demented. It really gives off you really shouldn't be here vibes. Next is one of my favorite parts of both games, is the Sage's attack versus the Divine Beast's attack, Ganon, and I'm going to give this one to Breath of the Wild. I still pull this theme up and listen to it every once in a while because it's so epic. I think it culminates the end of a game really well. I like Tears of the Kingdom when the sages come in and attack and they join you. But I remember when it happened in game, and I almost felt like it was missing something, that it just wasn't as epic as Breath of the Wild. Up next is going to be all of the final boss themes and the very ending of the game. So Phase 1, and I'm calling Phase 1 in Breath of the Wild because there's not really 3 clearly defined phases. Phase 1 is just going to be the first half of the Calamity Ganon fight, or the first little bit. And then phase 2 is the second half of the Calamity Ganon fight, and phase 3 for Breath of the Wild is Dark Beast Ganon. So the final boss, phase 1, I'm going to give this to Breath of the Wild. I think there's something truly special about the final boss fight with Calamity Ganon. I know some people don't really like it because it's not like a traditional Ganon fight, but I love how you don't really see the true shape of Ganon in this game until you go and fight him in Hyrule Castle. And it was kind of freaky the first time that I saw it. I think my mouth was open the whole time when it was showing him fall down from the top of Hyrule Castle all the way down to the huge pit, because he just looks like this nasty looking Metroid Prime boss that looks nothing like past Ganons that you fought. Up next is the final boss of phase 2, so this goes to Tears of the Kingdom. Not only is this a really fun fight, and I was shocked when he flurry rushed my flurry rush, but it's cool how they were able to put pretty much every Ganondorf theme from other games into this theme. But it starts as Ocarina of Time, and then shifts to Twilight Princess, and then Tears of the Kingdom. A great boss fight and great music. Now the final phase is final boss phase 3, and this also goes to Tears of the Kingdom. I like the beginning of the theme for Dark Beast Ganon. I was expecting an epic battle, like the Ganon fight from Twilight Princess, but it was honestly a really easy battle. You're given the Bow of Light, and you just kind of have to shoot the shining rings. Tears of the Kingdom, it was also a really easy fight, but it doesn't really get better than Link flying around on Zelda as a dragon, and you're fighting Ganon as a demon dragon. I mean, come on. Up next is the final boss death scene. I feel like I had to put this in because it was so epic in Tears of the Kingdom, which wins this one, versus Breath of the Wild. When it happened in my game, I don't know if this is how it happens in every single one, but it lagged my game because it was so epic. I mean, just look at this thing. Now the very last one, the epilogue theme. I'm going to give this one to Tears of the Kingdom as well. Breath of the Wild's epilogue theme is gorgeous and it's very Zelda-esque, especially in a game that doesn't really have a lot of traditional Zelda music, but the final catch as you're trying to save Zelda is going to go down as one of the coolest moments in a video game for me. With that, the final score is Tears of the Kingdom 13, Breath of the Wild 10. Both of these games are absolutely phenomenal. From the art style to the gameplay to the music, I see them as two of the best games ever created, and I can see myself listening to both of these soundtracks for years to come. Thanks for watching, and if you want to see another comparison between more music from Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, leave a comment down below of which songs or categories I missed. See you in the next video.